Good morning, and welcome to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
And we welcome you to Talk of the Town for this Wednesday, December 23rd. I'm Gary Stevens. We'll be open line following the 10 o'clock news block all the way through 11:30. Patty Vandenberg will join us in about an hour with what's new around Holland. Normally on the fourth Friday of the month, we have a chance to chat with Ottawa County Sheriff Steve Kempker, but because the fourth Friday of this month is landing on Christmas, we will not have a program of Talk of the Town. We'll be presenting our Prairie Home Christmas this Friday. The sheriff is gracious enough to join us this morning to talk about law enforcement and other things. He's on the other end of our Zoom connection from his offices in the Fillmore Street complex up in West Olive. Steve, good morning. Welcome back to Talk of the Town.
Good morning, Gary. How are you doing?
We are well. Hopefully you and all the deputies are well and getting ready for some wintry weather. It's a little late. Normally we have the first snow and the invariable issue of people forgetting their winter driving habits. So I think we need a primer on this today, Steve, sort of get everybody ready because we're going to get some nasty weather coming in starting tomorrow.
Yes, Gary, we are. And, it's one of the things that we actually kind of have informed our deputies of, the same driving habits that they need to adapt to now. Obviously, Gary, I think you've been around long enough that normally that first snowfall, if it does fall on Christmas Day, sometimes our crash rate is much lower because there's not as much traffic out with the morning and afternoon and evening commutes. But again, normally that first snowfall, we see a large amount of traffic crashes. Everything from the little fender benders up to more serious crashes, especially out on the expressways. I know the Road Commission is geared up. Michigan Department of Transportation is geared up for what is expected. But again, if you do have to travel, I think one of the, just add some extra time. That's one thing that we always find. Add extra time to your travel time. You're going to have to drive a little bit slower. Leave plenty of room between you and the vehicle ahead of you in case you have to do any braking or attempting to stop. And the big one too, Gary, is we always see this every year of the moving snow drift or snow mound down the road. It's where people fail to clean off the windows of their car or clean their car off. That is extremely important for visibility purposes. Also, it's that time of year, I know the tire stores get busy. It's probably a good time to take a good look at your tires on your vehicles and don't become overly dependent on four-wheel drive because a lot of the cars that we see in the ditch, especially along the freeway sometimes, people get a little overconfident with four-wheel drive. Yes, four-wheel drive is a benefit and the all-wheel drive. But again, when you get onto glare ice situations, it does not help much. And we do see people down the ditch and they go, well, I have four-wheel drive or I have all-wheel drive. Why am I down here in the ditch? So again, brake carefully, leave plenty of room between the vehicles around you. And also just out of courtesy, the snowplow drivers that are out there, give room around those guys while they're working. I know it gets a little frustrating, especially on the freeway. Sometimes they're lined up side by side, and they do that in effort to more clearly open up the lanes more quickly instead of have to make multiple passes. People sometimes will try to pass these trucks. They do, if you're close to them, they do have a tendency, when they do turn on the salt spreader that sprays, they do kick up a lot of snow and slush, especially if the snow is not wet. It reduces visibility. So give some distance around those gentlemen while they're out there doing their job during that. So again, we just hope that everybody has safe travels. And again, add that extra time to your travel time.
There are a few things that I want to sort of bring up, and then you can amplify if you wish, Steve. And by the way, if you have a question for Steve Kempker, he'll be happy to answer it at 395-1450, 395-1450. He is the Ottawa County Sheriff. But a couple of things, Steve, I want to bring up, and then you can amplify on, is one, before maybe about 15 years ago, when cellular phones became pretty much the norm and it was standard. If you're broken down, especially in an area where there is, no sign of human life for miles, you're going to have to hoof it and get to a pay phone or get to a phone at a place to be able to call for help. That has changed a little bit. And tell us a little bit about what the thinking is now from safety experts. If you are broken down on the side of the road, hoofing it right now may not be the safest thing to do.
No, Gary, it's really not, especially if you have cell phone and you do have communication capabilities that you can speak to somebody, or if you do call into 911 to seek a wrecker service or have a deputy or local officer come out. Some of the issues when you do get out of your car and start walking, a lot of people don't pack extra stuff in their car nowadays like they used to. I can remember as a kid in the winter when we would travel, we had extra winter jackets, our big boots in the car. Dad always had a shovel and like a bag of sand in the back. People don't do that nowadays. And I think part of that is because we are such a mobile society that you can pick your phone up and call and normally have help there very quickly. The other issue is the exposure, like I mentioned, walking. Also dangerous to walk down the highway, especially if visibility is bad. If you're walking down the highway, if a car were to lose control or drift over because they can't see the lines on the roadway, even during the daylight, it can be hard to see somebody walking, especially with blowing snow, and at night, especially when it's dark. Very dangerous to walk. I would suggest that only as a last resort. But yeah, pick your phone up. Some people call their wrecker services direct, or they can call into dispatch. And normally on those days, we have enough cars that they'll move up and down the freeway and check on these people. And again, yeah, I would not encourage people to get out and walk unless it's a dire emergency.
Now, when the weather conditions are such that will slow up response time, some people, would say, hey, do I have to sit 2-3 hours? Probably not, unless we really get a blizzard type of situation. Based on your knowledge of the county, I would say if you call dispatch, and correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, if you call dispatch in an outlying area, I would think you would get a response within 20 to 25 minutes under normal conditions. There's really no place in the county so remote where it's going to be taking more than a half hour to be responding.
Yeah, you're pretty correct on that statement, Gary. And again, it depends on the call volume. The nice thing is with today's technology and that, a dispatcher can almost pinpoint where you're calling from. And obviously, they're going to ask you. But also with the technology, the dispatcher can see who the closest car is to where you are at. At times, they will tell you that, you may be in your car down in the ditch on the freeway and not realize, within a mile of you, there could be 20 other cars in the ditch because of a hazard condition, or we get a pile-up situation. The dispatcher is going to be very good with that person and tell them that, look, there is an officer, just behind you. They're working their way up the roadway, checking on people. And there's been times that, when people do go off the roadway, if they are okay, and there's no danger at all, the officer may move to the next one, but then that officer will do the loop around, and we continually check on these people. And then obviously as the wreckers come to get people winched out of the ditches and that. So again, it's vital to keep a cell phone with you. Most people have their charger cord with them. We see a lot of people carry these little portable battery backups in case your phone does start to die. If for some reason your car is stalled out and you can't do any charging. Fairly inexpensive, but a very cheap insurance policy for your cell phone to have power to it.
395-1450. Let's get to a call. Good morning. You're on the line with Ottawa County Sheriff Steve Kempker.
Good morning, Sheriff Kempker. Just want to point out, and I know I've mentioned it before, but it seems as though the county cars do not drive with their headlights on. Most of the time, you see them without headlights, even in the poorest weather, and they really should think about themselves of doing that for safety. Plus, I don't ever see them wear vests when they're out at an accident scene. Tow truck drivers do, but our deputies do not. And I really think for safety-wise, they should really consider that. And I've made that point before with the headlights, and it's bothersome that they still continue to not do that. So I would appreciate the attention on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the call, Steve.
Yeah, and that's something that, we address with our staff. The cruiser packages, the daylight driving lights are disabled on the police package cars. I'm one, I drive with my headlights on all the time. Daytime, rain during the day, even a day today where it's a little bit overcast, because that extra headlights being on is, when people pull up to an intersection, and as the caller, has probably seen for himself, sometimes it's hard. The car blends into the background, especially this time of year and during the summer sometimes. But to have those extra, the daylight running lights or your regular headlights on do make a big difference. And again, that's something that we do point out to our staff. And the traffic vest. Most of the time that I'm out, I see our deputies with the vest on, and especially during the winter, most of the guys will put the vest and gals will put them on right over their winter jacket and leave it on for the entire shift. Obviously, they don't wear the vest when they go out on criminal complaint calls or if they have to be out doing some other stuff. But that is one of the things that we continue to stress, and that I will continue to stress to our staff also. That is an important safety factor, for them and for others.
I have to disagree with the caller. I have seen deputies with the vest on, even in a criminal situation. And I mentioned it our chat last month about the break-in over in beautiful downtown Jenison. And I saw the deputies with the vests on, even in that situation, even though they were in a parking lot. So I have to disagree with the caller. It's not, it's something that normally I do see. When I usually wave to the deputies I pass by. I'm not going to play I know the sheriff card. I don't want to do that. But I do see them with the vests.
Yeah, and Gary, I came out of the traffic unit where I worked a lot of fatal accidents over the years and a lot of serious crashes. And the vest is important. And our uniforms have changed over the years also. A lot of our winter jackets now have reflective pull-down tabs that can be used, but for traffic situations, we've actually have tested out a couple jackets where it's a reversible jacket where the officer can quickly reverse the jacket, and it's a bright yellow jacket on the outside. Again, that visibility is important. We do go through training with our staff as to positioning of vehicles, how to work around an accident scene, because even though that accident's taken place, that scene, as people drive by, they don't pay attention. They want to see what's going on. And we did have a deputy back in '89 that was killed while directing traffic in a rainstorm in Jenison on Baldwin. And that was really, for this agency, the eye opener, and for law enforcement in our community here in Ottawa County, is where the traffic vest and the reflective night vest really came into play. And it has really taken off from that point. So, we've experienced that loss. And again, that's a tragic loss. And again, anything that we can do to, protect our staff. And, I also get phone calls, and I do have to agree sometimes that, some of the new emergency lighting on the cruisers, I'm sure you've seen it, the LED lighting is extremely bright compared to what we had years ago. It has made a huge difference in the safety of our officers as they're either moving on a code run or at an intersection. But the technology there has changed so greatly in the last year and a half. They have auto dimming features on the light bars. So when the car is put into park, it dims the light bar by about 50%. The deputy can dim the light bar. Sometimes you'll see the light bars are only on to the rear of the vehicle and not to the front anymore. Again, it creates more of a safety situation for the officer.
395-1450, 395-1450. If you have a question for Ottawa County Sheriff Steve Kempker. Speaking about equipment and equipment for deputies, sergeants, lieutenants out on the field, what are we getting the latest on in terms of body cams and training for body cams with the Ottawa County Sheriff's Department?
Yes, Gary. Actually, we just had an initial meeting within the last week. We'll be forming a group after the first of the year to start this project moving forward. Again, we have to look at, the expense, the logistics. I think we'll be pretty much in place, and I would hope that within 9 to 12 months, because of the size of our agency, and also having to, as a government agency, obviously take bids. and evaluate what equipment's going to be best for us, what our technology can handle through the county IT structure, and policies and procedures. I would project that 9 to 12 months that we'll be up and running.
Steve, shop with a sheriff went well, and stuffing Eddie in the cruisers. I mean, no, we don't stuff Eddie, but stuffing the cruiser apparently went well as well. Tell us about those.
It did. Every year the sheriff's deputies in the area are involved with Shop with the Sheriff. And I really have to commend the community, the Meyer Corporation and the Walmart Corporation. They came up with the deputies to distribute over $20,000 in gift cards to families. And those families were picked by the local school districts with families that are struggling this holiday season, along with the COVID situation. And they were able to take care of just over 140 families, which was absolutely fantastic. They were hand delivered, and they also did a drive-through event at the one school in Hudsonville, where the selected families drove through, and it was a non-contact gift card giving there, and the same with the residents, just a single deputy following COVID guidelines delivered to the homes of the children. And then we call it Cram with a Cruiser at Family Fair in Zeeland. We again greatly appreciate Family Fair's cooperation with us there. And this was for his harvest stand in Zeeland. The event was overwhelming this year compared to last year. They raised over $1,800 in cash, took in over 5,000 pounds of food and 4 grocery carts of toys that were all donated to his harvest stand, again, to help families this holiday season. And again, credit to the community members there that participated in that Cram in the Cruiser. Absolutely wonderful that the community members were buying items in the grocery store and turning right around and donating them to a very good cause in our area here to help families. And again, I can't say thanks enough to Family Fair, Meyer, and Walmart for stepping up to the plate during these times. Normally we do Shop with the Sheriff at the store itself with all the kids, and a bunch of the deputies come in and go with a child and shop. We didn't want to lose that this year, so the group of deputies came up with this plan, working with the stores, and again, very successful event. And it's just great to see the smiles. And there's a short little video on the Ottawa County myottawa.org website of the event, kind of explaining it, just a 2 or 3 minute video that they do every year. But again, we just want to say thank you to our community.
I wanted to bring that up, and I'm glad we had a chance to talk about it. So one more thing, and I do want to bring up with you in the short term, and that's the reason why I asked you, Steve, if you can join us next Wednesday, because Peg wants to look ahead and look forward to 2021, and there are some important questions that need to be asked, and we'll do that next week. But I do want to bring apart something that is going on right now, and that is the extra enforcement patrols. Be it for seatbelts, be it for drunken driving, be it for driving and texting. It's underway statewide. Obviously, the Ottawa County Sheriff's Department is among a number of law enforcement entities that are involved. Tell us what the main emphasis of this particular enforcement period is. And we're right in the middle of it in terms of being on, as we're recording this on the 23rd of December. I assume this is going through the extra long New Year's weekend.
It is, Gary, and again, this is funding from the Office of Highway Safety and Planning from the state of Michigan that funds these enforcement efforts. I think all you need to do is look at the news over the last couple of weeks of the many fatal accidents, both in Ottawa and Allegan County. Sadly to say, the ones here in Ottawa County did involve alcohol and or drugs, and our efforts to reduce those accidents, to prevent those accidents, and to get these drivers off the road is important for the safety of our citizens. A very innocent young lady lost her life in Spring Lake. Accident that should have never happened, totally uncalled for. Again, involving substance abuse. It's still out there. It does become more prominent during the holiday seasons. It'll be interesting this holiday season, because right now we're not seeing the office gatherings, the big family gatherings, obviously because of COVID. But one of the things that we have noticed yet during COVID is we are still arresting a higher number of drunk drivers and driving under the influence of drugs. And again, it started to spike here a little bit. We're seeing also, speed is playing a factor in some of the accidents. I know Allegan County got hit hard here during the last week and a half with fatals up and down 131 and several other areas. And these are just tragic accidents, especially this time of year. They're tragic any time of the year. But again, these accidents affect all of us. Even though we may not know this person, it affects your insurance rates, and it has a long carry-out effect. If somebody's seriously injured, employers are affected, families are affected. We have a deputy right now that was in a serious crash a couple of weeks ago or almost a month now, when he was off duty. It was not his fault, but he is laid up probably for a good year. So that, affects us, but more so him, because one of our most dedicated employees that enjoyed coming to work every day is now confined home. And I've talked to him on the phone a couple of times, and he's healing up very well. We know we'll get him back, but he's going nuts sitting home. He would rather be at work, because he enjoys his job so much.
He is Steve Kempker. He is the sheriff of Ottawa County, and we are buttoning up this edition of WHTC's Talk of the Town with Sheriff Steve Kempker. And again, Steve, we appreciate you joining us next Wednesday morning at this time to talk about a look ahead to 2021 with Peg. And we appreciate you joining us this morning, Steve. You and your family and everyone involved with the Sheriff's Department, we wish all of you a blessed and Merry Christmas and a safe and Happy New Year. And I'll talk to you next month.
Sounds great, Gary. And again, we pass our holiday greetings on to you and to all your dedicated listeners that join in, because I do hear it from the people in the public that they do listen, and it's absolutely great. So have a great holiday, Gary.
Thank you very much, Steve Kempker on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.